until the edges of the wound stay closed on their own.
What are we doing? Yo, what is that? Yo, so we giving natural jungle stitches? Wait, ants? That's so bad. If it's two things I care about on this channel, it's education and animation. I heard about this channel called Zack D Films, and I heard it's basically everything I need and a little bit more. The animations they said was like a little bit gruesome, and I'm looking at the titles right now. How stitches work, how splinters get unstuck, the reason the McFlurry spoon look weird. Bro, this is exactly up my alley. So without any further ado, let's check it out.
When you get stitches, a doctor threads a needle through your wound and pulls it tight to close the skin. As the stitches hold the edges together, the wound becomes inflamed as new cells begin to repair the tissue.
Look at this animation,
Afterwards, connective tissues and collagens start to create skin. Then blood vessels form to nourish these developing tissues, filling in the area. And over a few weeks, the wound will have healed together and the stitches are removed. If you get a splinter, most people just go ahead and pull them out. But sometimes they get lodged so deep into your skin that you can't reach them. If the area gets infected, it will start to swell as pus forms under the skin. This creates pressure around the splinter that can sometimes push it upwards towards the skin's surface. And if you're lucky, after a certain period of time, your body could have completely removed it from your skin.
I know about this.
Have you ever noticed how odd the McFlurry spoon is? Well, some people think it's supposed to work like a straw, but you only have to try that once to realize it does not work. The true reason for these weird spoons is actually pretty genius. You see, McDonald's didn't want to clean their beaters after every McFlurry, so instead, they designed a spoon that would also work as the mixer.
When a doctor gives you a shot, they can sometimes accidentally push the needle all the way through your vein, which ends up puncturing both sides. Once the needle is removed, it leaves two holes in the vein. And before the body can thicken the blood and seal these holes, it bleeds into the surrounding tissues. This leaked blood forms a dark, tender area under the skin, creating bruises and splotchy areas.
That's nothing, bruh. Bro, that's nothing, bruh. I'll eat that. Pause. Let's get to it.
Wondered how this trick is done? It's one of those things where you know he can't actually be making the salt disappear,
learning magic
but it's still confusing to look at. Well, it turns out that the simplest explanation is the right one. Look closely at his hand during this shot. Do you notice how he sort of grabs his thumb here? Well, this is because he's using a prop called a dofi finger. He holds it in his fist like a cup, fills it up with the salt, gets it onto his other thumb, and then grabs it off his thumb back into the first position. Watch it again and see if you can notice.
Let me peep.
If you lose one of your adult teeth, the bone where the tooth once was can start to deteriorate. To prevent further damage, a dentist will fill the cavity with a synthetic material that mimics real bone. Once filled, a metal bracket is secured on top and the incision is closed. After the graft has healed, a large implant post is inserted into the new bone. Then a small metal piece is screwed in and a porcelain tooth is secured on top. If you somehow removed all of the blood vessels in your body and tied them together, you might think it would be about this long. But the human body has thousands of these tiny vessels that weave in and out of every body part. And with all of them combined, if you started in New York, your blood vessels would make it all the way to the Grand Canyon. It would go on to reach all the way across the Pacific Ocean, over Japan, Asia, and all of Europe. And not only would it make it all the way back to your starting point, but it would be able to make this trip 2 to 4 times over. As a human, they actually get stuck for a while and can't leave. And this is because they're stinging.
Y'all, recently I got stung in the neck by a bee. crazy experience, bruh.
Which means it can't retract once it's lodged into something. But once the bee finally pulls away, its insides get ripped out because the stinger stays in the skin. This leaves the bee without some of its internal organs, resulting in its death. You ever wondered about this little dangly thing at the back of your throat? Well, even though it looks like a miniature punching bag, it actually serves a handful of important functions.
What are we doing at Zack D Films? Punching
this thing called a uvula actually swings backwards to prevent the food from going up your nose. It's also constantly producing saliva to keep the throat moist, which aids in swallowing. And because there's a tiny muscle inside the uvula, it can move around, which helps you speak. If you get a skin tag, some people think you can just rip them off yourself, but you actually shouldn't do this.
I never got a skin tag.
Skin tags are connected to your body by a thin piece of tissue. And if you looked inside of it, the tag actually has its own nerves and blood vessels. Ripping it off would cause significant bleeding, and the open wound would be susceptible to infection. Instead, if you want them removed, a doctor can freeze them off with liquid nitrogen, which is a better option.
You can't do that yourself?
A few days ago, I showed you how this trick was done, and I was wrong. This is how I originally explained it. Cane, base, rods, back brace, harness. All that's left for the magician to do is use his core strength to pull his legs up. Well, this magician, known as Special Head, left a comment on my TikTok. He also made a response video proving that my theory is wrong. There appears to be no base or harness. In fact, Special Head has some other videos online where he just touches someone's head and levitates. So what's going on here? What's the real explanation to this trick?
The real explanation is he just got it like that.
I have no idea.
If you stepped on 3 prongs hidden just beneath the surface would immediately sense the pressure. This pressure would release a striker pin, activating a fuse. Then an initial explosion propels the mine upwards,
That's that
reaching
Betty,
about
bro.
waist
Black
height.
Ops 2.
In the air, the fuse
that.
reaches the main charge inside, causing
bruh.
the mine to explode. The casing shatters, ejecting metal fragments at high speeds in all directions. If you touch a cactus, you'll probably get the spine stuck in your skin. And if you try to pull them out, you can actually break them off in your flesh because they're so fragile. So instead, you should apply a layer of glue over the area. Once it is dried, quickly peel it off in a smooth motion. This will pull out the spines evenly, causing them to stay intact.
Remember that.
He swings his left arm freely, but his right arm seems like it's stuck to his side. Some people have speculated that because this is a sign of early Parkinson's, Putin might be at risk. But the real reason he walks this way has nothing to do with his health.
Why?
Putin was a KGB officer for 16 years, and in the KGB manual, it spells out the specific way officers should walk so they can always be prepared to handle their weapons. This style of walking perfectly describes the way Putin walks today. Other long-term KGB officers also seem to walk the same way.
What's the benefit?
If you accidentally touched a table saw, you'd probably think your fingers would be cut off. But this isn't always the case. You see, some modern high-end saws actually know the difference between wood and your skin. Once your finger comes in contact with these special saws, it immediately detects the electrical conductivity from your skin. This triggers an immediate mechanical response that stops the blade in less than 5 milliseconds.
Have you ever wondered why the letter E isn't used to grade? Teachers use A, B, C, D, and F, but they skip E. Why
E for excellence, bruh.
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. You see, back in the day, schools did use the letter E, but in the 1930s, they decided to stop after students and parents thought that it meant excellent. It was quickly replaced with F, because F for failed made more sense.
So E for fail, it was E for fail, bro?
If you swallowed a watermelon seed, some people think that it could potentially sprout in your stomach, meaning you'd literally be growing a watermelon inside of you.
If you think this, bro.
Now, this is obviously not true. Your stomach acid would dissolve the seed before it had time to grow. But there was a case of a man who swallowed a pea that ended up going down the wrong way. And months later, after being rushed to the hospital because of breathing problems, a doctor discovered that the pea had been ingested planted in the man's lung. And because lungs are warm and moist,
get that out.
the pea was able to split open and sprout into a plant. The outer layer absorbs the impact and shatters, but under this is a tough plastic sheet that acts as a web catching the shattered glass. The energy is then evenly distributed across the surface,
This is bulletproof glass, bro. It just looks like a regular piece of glass.
And if that isn't enough to stop it, there's another layer of glass backed by more plastic that ensures the bullet would not make it all the way through. When you shave a hair, you expect it to grow back normally. But occasionally, as the hair grows, it will actually curl back into the skin. This leads to what's known as an ingrown hair. Now, most people think you're just supposed to pluck these out, but that will actually just irritate the area more. If possible, you should guide the tip of the hair in the right direction so it continues to grow correctly. When you swallow food, it's supposed to go down your esophagus,
but mine always goes up my nose.
But there's this different route that leads to your lungs called the trachea. And the trachea sits right next to your esophagus. Now, when you swallow, the fleshy parts in your throat move over the trachea, so the food won't go down it. But sometimes, if you eat too fast, the fleshy parts of your throat don't do their job, and the food goes down your trachea, also known as the wrong pipe. When you pull the trigger of a gun, it releases a pin which strikes the primer at the base of the cartridge. Inside this cartridge is a chemically explosive substance known as smokeless powder. The impact from the firing pin ignites this powder inside the cartridge, creating a high-pressure gas that rapidly expands. This energy pushes forward and forces the bullet out of the cartridge, driving it down the barrel of the gun.
Pushes most of the earwax further in. This is so bad for you that even the Q-tip box says not to do it. But odds are you'll still use them even after watching this video.
I'm good.
Why? Well, using Q-tips leads to what dermatologists refer to as the itch-scratch cycle. The more you use them, the more your ears itch. And the more your ears itch, the more you use them.
The skin will close up over the stump and you'll be legless the rest of your life. This is true for almost all creatures, but there is an amphibian called an axolotl that does something different. You see, when this creature loses a limb, the wound quickly closes up to prevent infections. But shortly after, a mass of cells known as a blastema form at the injury. As these cells grow, they morph into bone, nerve, and skin cells. And over time, these cells entirely rebuild the creature's limb from the inside out. The army ant is placed on the wound and positioned so its jaws clamp tightly on the edges, securing them together. Then the ant's body is twisted off, leaving its head and mandibles in place, which acts as a stitch. More are added depending on the size of the wound. And these ant stitches are left in the skin until the edges of the wound stay closed on their own.
What are we doing? What is that? Yo, so we giving natural jungle stitches? Wait, ants? That's so bad. Y'all realize, bruh, y'all ripping the head, y'all decapitating these ants, bruh. It's somebody's womb. No, that's not the ant's purpose, bruh. Come on. I'm done. For real, these Zack D Films just had me locked in. I'm sorry if I wasn't talking. I know y'all probably, it's good you not talking. It's good you yap. Oh, shut up. Look, it's been your boy. I'm about to dip. Y'all be smooth. We go probably check out these joints again. Honestly, I might be checking these things out on my own off time without y'all, cause like, dang, like I didn't think these things gonna hit like this. Y'all, it's been your boy Young Daughter Duck. I'm up out of here. If you stay to the end of the video, you know I appreciate you. Leave a like, leave a comment, make sure to subscribe, and I'm out. Bye.